Well, a very good morning, East African, from wherever else you're watching us this morning. Welcome to your world this Tuesday, the 16th of February, 2021. This morning, we take a look at the state of the insurance sector in Kenya. Now, data from the Kenya Association of Insurers shows that insurance penetration has been on a steady decline from 2.79% in 2015 to 2.34% in 2019. And the question is, so why are Kenyans not getting insured? We hope we can comprehensively answer that question in the next 2 hours. And my name is Victor Kiprop, and this is your world. We take a look at the Kenya's insurance sector and why Kenyans are not insured.
You are likely to affect the way you are rated and accepted by insurance companies.
The economy has been hit by COVID-19, but how's the insurance sector doing? Guinea's health ministry declares the country's first Ebola outbreak since 2016. And Argentines pay their final respects to the late former president Carlos Menem. Good. And now that we are talking about matters insurance, we have our question of the day, and we ask you, have you insured yourself, your business or property against any risk? And if not, then why? Talk to us on social media through at NTV Kenya on Twitter, at Victor Kiprop _. Use the hashtag #NewNormal. Also, you can also follow the discussion on Facebook and on Instagram. Good. And even before we delve into this discussion, we'd like to update you on the state of the coronavirus pandemic across the world and in Kenya. These are the latest numbers according to Corona Tracker. So far, 109 million people, 675,104 people have been, of course, confirmed to have contracted the coronavirus globally. 84 million of them, of course, have recovered, and 2.4 million people have sadly lost their lives due to this pandemic that we continue battling in Kenya and across the world. Let me just bring you up to speed with the numbers in Kenya. And so far, 103,014 people have been confirmed with the coronavirus in Kenya. 85,250 people have so far recovered, with 1,795 people have sadly succumbed to the virus. Good. And 5 years after it was declared Ebola-free, officials in Guinea have declared an outbreak of the disease, with 7 cases confirmed in the West African nation's southeast. The country's health minister, Sakoba Keita, said 3 of the 7 people with the reported Ebola-like symptoms have already died after attending a burial in Guki near the Liberian border. But the other 4 have been already isolated. The cases marked the first known resurgence of the virus in West Africa since the 2013-2016 pandemic that began in Guinea and left more than 11,300 people dead across the region. Back to matters COVID-19, and Zimbabwe is expected to commence its COVID-19 vaccination by next week, becoming the first Southern African country to start inoculating its citizens. The 3-phase vaccination program, which starts with frontline workers at high risk of infection, followed by those with chronic diseases, the elderly, and the prison population, follows the arrival of the first batch of the 200,000 doses donated by China. Only a handful of African countries have begun giving vaccinations as the continent scrambles to obtain supplies for its 1.3 billion people, even as many richer nations race ahead with mass immunization programs. From Southern Africa to Northern Africa, where civil society organizations in Algeria are demanding investigations into allegations of rape and torture of opposition supporters held in custody after recent accusations of abuse of a former prisoner. In early February, Walid Nikishe, a 25-year-old pro-democracy student who claims to have been tortured and sexually assaulted by members of security forces, triggered indignation and forced the general prosecutor of the Court of Algiers to open an investigation. Nikish was arrested on November 2019 and placed in pre-trial detention for 15 months for participating in an anti-regime administration known as HURA.
Il nous appartient pas de dire qu'il y a des cas de torture. S'il y a des cas de torture, c'est elle la déclencheuse.
Good. And from the north to West Africa now, where authorities in Nigeria's capital, Abuja, have established an outdoor mobile court in an effort to prosecute individuals and institutions violating the imposed COVID-19 rules to help the spread of the coronavirus. This comes after President Muhammadu Buhari signed a new law in January prescribing a 6-month jail sentence for those disobeying guidelines. Nigeria, Africa's most populous country, is currently facing a second wave of infections with more than 143,000 cases and more than 1,700 deaths reported. But these figures are believed to fall short of the real toll since the number of tests are low.
This is court. You could see ex-convict. They have just been convicted, and you've interviewed them. Some of them have been convicted. I think today we had about 46 persons. 3 were minor. The judge asked them to go and not to comply, and the other ones were convicted. It's hidden result. We're not going to give up. We are going to push it hard so that people will be saved from killing themselves. The impact of the mobile court is what you can see around Abuja. Everybody is wearing face masks. Everybody is just putting on face masks around Abuja. If you go to Karo, you go to even neighboring states like Maraba, that are border community, you see people putting on face masks. You go to areas like Kuba, you see face masks. And in this area here, you see everybody on face masks. Everyone fully on face masks. And even the corporate entity are having their sanitizers, their washing point already. And that's the beauty of it.
So the court sometimes, the court imposes a community service on them. It gives a fine, the payment of a fine, or an option of community service for 2 weeks. That's what the court does, but it is the discretion of the court. The court can send to prison.
They are granted, we are granted, we were asked to pay 10,000, bring in shorty. That is the bond. But the persons who pleaded guilty were fined 2,000 naira instantly, and they paid. That is the position. Some of those number of persons are pleading. Some of them pleaded guilty. They were not properly masked, although they had their face masks, but they were not properly masked. So the court fined them.
Good, and to a story that will now help us into the discussion of the day. For many people, making the ends meet during the coronavirus pandemic means cutting back on necessities. But should one's life insurance policy be on that list? Let's take a closer look at the pandemic, how the pandemic has had, the impact the pandemic has had on life insurance and how players are responding.
Anything can happen. Life can take a turn for the worse at any moment.
It is a conversation that no one is prepared to have. But for Abel Munda, the CEO of Liberty Insurance, it's one that is necessary.
First of all, your greatest asset is your life. If you don't have your life, you can't have anything. That is why we always say that one cannot have a complete financial plan without an life insurance element in it. These critical illnesses that afflict people nowadays, whether it is cancer, whether it is renal failure, whether it is heart attack, I mean, they can just wipe you out in a flash.
The outbreak of COVID-19 earlier this year has further reminded us how fragile life can be and how financially vulnerable we are. And insurers like Liberty have now had to come up with new lifetime critical illness and income protection covers.
So the chemo product essentially is a cover for critical illnesses. That is the unique proposition for that product. So it covers whether it is cancer, whether it is renal failure, whether it is heart attack. There are a number of them, including providing for disability, because some of these illnesses can disable you totally.
But what happens at the expiry of the term?
The beauty about it is, if throughout that period you've not claimed anything, there is money to be refunded to you, which is 10% of the face amount. Again, that is a feature that people really liked, because one of the questions Kenyans like to ask is, you mean I will pay all this money and if nothing happens to me, at the end of it I get nothing? So this is where you get something.
The reduction or loss of income due to the pandemic has, however, meant that other basic needs such as food and shelter rank higher in terms of priority. In fact, a number of insurance firms have already reported a sharp rise in policy cancellations and withdrawals by customers who have been squeezed by the tough economic times.
Customers have also obviously been apprehensive. They don't want to meet up. They don't want to consider insurance in this particular. There are other priorities, higher priorities, if I can put it that way. And this is why we see that there has not been any growth.
With 1.72 million workers reported to have lost their jobs between April and June alone due to the COVID-19-induced economic downturn, covers against retrenchment are gaining popularity. A number of clients have also been reported to have taken loans against their policies.
At that point in time, in January, people are hard up, people have just come from vacation, and people you don't have money. So at least you can resort to your policy to enable you to continue to educate your children.
Industry statistics indicate that even before COVID-19 struck, insurance penetration in Kenya was pitiably low, standing at just 2.4% as at the close of 2019. In the meantime, the pandemic is still with us, and Abel says if there were a time to look into your financial planning and future to make sure that you and your family can make the ends meet, the time is now. Victor Kiprop, NTV Business. Good. Welcome back to our discussion. As we promised you earlier, we are taking a look at the state of the insurance sector in the country. We'll be looking at the issues around penetration. Why aren't Kenyans taking insurance policies? Why aren't they insuring themselves against the number of risks that are facing themselves, all their businesses, all their property? And I have a very interesting panel which are going to help us delve into this discussion. But even before we get to that, maybe we can take a look at some numbers which will give us some context at how the insurance sector in the country is performing. As I mentioned earlier, the insurance penetration as a percentage of GDP stands at 2.43%, which is still very low compared to other countries like South Africa, which are at above 15%. And if you look at the figures on your screens right now, that is the trends in insurance penetration in Kenya, you could see that it has been on some sort of a steady decline from 2015 to 2019, from 2.79% to 2.37%. Maybe we could have some more. Good. This is comparing the gross written premiums by insurance companies in Kenya. In 2018, that figure was at 216.1 billion shillings. In 2019, it grew to 231.3 billion shillings. And then we can take a look at how some of these classes of insurance are performing. Remember, the simple way of subdividing is into to life insurance and non-life insurance. And with non-life insurance, this class has been recording losses, some 3.27 billion shillings in 2019. The medical insurance sector recorded 204 million shillings in profit. Now let's look at motor insurance, which is one of those sectors known to be predominantly loss-making. As you can see from the chart, the private class of motor insurance recorded 4.6 billion shillings in losses in 2019, while commercial, that includes, of course, public service vehicles and all that, recorded 2.68 billion shillings in losses in the same year. And this is another figure that is going to be very, very, very important in our discussion going on. 35.73 billion shillings. This is the figure of unremitted premiums. That means there are people somewhere who've been paying their premiums, but they have not been remitted to the insurers. So we will be asking questions on exactly why we have such a huge figure in terms of premiums not remitted. I'd like to now introduce my panel for this discussion. To help us delve into this discussion, we have with me here, Mr. Kalai Musee, the Chief Manager of the Technical Division at the Insurance Regulatory Authority. Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
We also have Washington Degea, the Chairman of Bima Intermediaries. Washington, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
And we also have Christine Gethiuni, who is a financial consultant. She's going to be talking to us on how exactly to best invest in this insurance. We also invite you to join us to join the discussion on social media, as I mentioned earlier, at NTV Kenya on Twitter, at Victor Kiprop _ use the hashtag #NewNormal. And on our question of the day, of course, we asked you whether you have insured yourself, your business or property against any form of risk, and if not, then why haven't you done so? We will be sampling some of your feedback later. We'll also give you an opportunity to talk to our guests. Perhaps we will be opening up our lines. You could ask any questions that you want to understand if you're still wondering whether it is a wise thing to get to insure yourself or your business or property. But maybe to start us off, Mr. Musee, welcome to the show. I think the question on everyone's mind has always been, why aren't Kenyans getting insured?
Thank you, Victor, for inviting me in this important discussion on insurance. I think the main problem is understanding insurance and what it involves and how important it is. Insurance is actually very, very important in our everyday life. It deals with risk. And everybody has risks wherever they go, in whatever they do. That's why they need insurance. I think what we lack is that understanding of what is the use of insurance. That is where the problem is.
Good. But that is not just, I mean, we've spoken to some people on the streets, and that, I mean, they have a various number of challenges. One of them is, first of all, even the affordability itself. We've just come from a coronavirus pandemic, and most people think, I mean, by the time I pay rent, when do I even have time to insure maybe my life or education policy for my children? Don't you think that is an issue?
I agree it's an issue. That's why I'm saying it's an issue of understanding what insurance is and the role it plays. Because you'll find most of the times we put it as the last priority after we do everything else. But risks are with us in our everyday life. We can get losses every day. The issue of affordability, yes, it's a key issue. But I think later I'll be talking about some of the initiatives we have in place to ensure that we also take care of issues of affordability, because probably the products we have been having may not be appropriate for all of us. Yeah.
Good. Do you think culture is perhaps another issue?
It is another issue. It is another issue. Culture is another issue. I've heard you have shown the figures and said South Africa, the penetration is very high. Do you know one of the reasons for South Africa, the biggest class is funeral insurance? In Kenya, we have Arambi. Oh. So nobody cares about funeral insurance. We all go to Garden Square and other places. So culture is also another important issue.
Let me bring in Washington at this point. Washington, you act as the sort of the go-between the insurance companies and our clients. Do you get the sense of what Mr. Musee is talking about, that we don't necessarily have to invest in insurance, because every time we have a wedding, we have a funeral, or we have a medical bill, we just pull our resources together and we bring our cousins and we talk about, hey, let's changa kidogo for Washington's Rura show.
Well, thanks so much, Victor, for having me. Well, it's very, very true that the aspect of insurance in this country has been a little bit been overtaken by these social events that we usually have. And it's amazing you asked that question, because I've just written an article where we talk about peer-to-peer insurance. Peer-to-peer insurance is basically where people meet up and they contribute towards a certain cause. Usually friends, they meet up, they decide, let's contribute, for example, for funeral expenses. Because we find the major issue is people, as far as the insurance is concerned, they don't really understand that very, very deep aspect of the technical side of insurance, you know. The longer it takes, for example, to settle a claim, the more it unsettles people as far as having insurance is concerned. They feel that it doesn't come for them in real time, so to speak. But you have, when you do a mchango, for example, if you go to Garden Square, as Kalai is saying, the money is available immediately, so to speak. You know, that issue of availability of funds immediately is what the insurance company, the insurance industry actually should be looking at.
Good, Washington, and perhaps we will be coming back to the issue about what the insurance companies are doing and how much of the blame they are supposed to take in this. But let me bring in Christine to this. Christine, good morning. From a layman's perspective, I'm just a small businessman. I have my own kiosk, or I have a very small plot in a rural town. Why do I really need to insure it?
Well, if your shop is actually an asset, so all those assets have value. So I look at it this way: if someone was to burn down that shop or to take away all your assets, how would you feel about that? So that's how we look at insurance, is to cover the risk of that potential loss.
Okay, and I think we also went around to ask Kenyans the same question that we are asking you this morning. Have they insured themselves? Have they insured their businesses or property? And if not, why? I don't know if we have their sound bites ready. We will be getting into that in a bit. But let me go back to Washington on this. You mentioned about what the blame that insurance companies take on regards to the time in which they take to settle these claims. Given all the factors that we have listed, how much of a blame should be apportioned to this?
Let me tell you something, Victor. As far as the insurance is concerned, it's all about the speed at which you settle a claim. You know, to a certain extent, people have this. They have this idea that insurance should be there to come for them in real time, as and when they need the help. That's actually, someone will sacrifice his 5,000, 10,000, 100,000 shillings because they feel that when a calamity arises, the insurance company is going to come in real time. Now, the biggest problem comes in now when there's this delayment in claims. when you don't really trust the insurance company to come for you at the time of need. And you've got to understand that people talk. When your brother, for example, is not settled for insurance in time, or when the insurance company refuses to settle at all, it is the name of the industry that is getting spoiled. It is why now people will get to issues of getting into Harambes. They feel coming together in a Harambe will make much more sense to have themselves covered, because what's insurance all about? Insurance is basically being covered for the risks that you think might happen in future, the accidental risks, not anything that's predicted. I mean, that is not insurable anyway. Even when you get into what I was just telling you about, for example, peer-to-peer insurance, which basically getting together and contributing money to a certain cause, it's being brought about by that issue of the timeliness of paying a claim. The fact that, and remember, Victor, there's even some time back I was talking about, let's not even talk about, for example, even medical funds and stuff. This time I was talking about Moto Insurance. Does it really make any sense to have Moto Insurance compulsory in this country, but when an accident occurs, it takes a lawyer for you to get paid, for example? It doesn't make any sense. I was arguing, why don't we just make everything free? Why don't we decide whether to insure or not? Shoulder your burden, that's your problem. You know? Why insure, and then when something happens, it's like you've not insured.
Good.
You know, that's a debate maybe that should be looked at in a deeper sense, because it doesn't make sense to spend your money and at the end of the day, it's like you're not covered. You're still exposed to the same risks.
Good, but if talking about the point about making it compulsory, I think one of the main classes of the Kenya's insurance sector should be motor and medical, which by a large extent should be, it's because it's mandatory. If you have a formal job, you need to have, you know, a medical insurance, and if you have a car, you should have a motor insurance. Is this, Mr. Musee, is this a reflection of how bad the situation is, that we actually need these laws and to put things as mandatory for us to insure ourselves?
Okay, maybe just to correct on one issue, medical is not compulsory. It's actually a benefit given by the employer to employees. So it may not be, it's not compulsory by law, but motor is compulsory. And it's not just in Kenya. I think probably in many places in the world it's compulsory because of the government has a duty to protect the public. If somebody is injured, you may not have a recourse on me if you are injured by my vehicle. Suppose I can't pay. What will you do? You will leave your people like that, you'll be injured in car expenses, and you can't be paid. So the government has a role to ensure that there's some form of protection for the public. And that's why motor is made compulsory. So it's for the benefit of the public. It's something the government gives the public to ensure that there is some protection if you are injured.
Good. And if you look at the indicators that we had, most of them point towards a very stunted growth, if I can say, or slow growth in this sector. And we've just come from a COVID-19 pandemic. You saw in the story people talking about, I have other needs that come first before I think about insuring myself. How much of a problem do you think COVID-19 has been for insurance?
Interestingly, the effect of COVID has not been grave on the insurance industry. We expected probably we will see a decline in growth in the industry, which is not the situation. We are waiting for the figures to come, but so far what we are seeing, there is actually growth. Could be a growth of something like 6%, which is normal growth for the last 3-4 years. So, but of course I can't say that there has been no effect. The industry has incurred losses of almost $1 billion because of COVID. And you talked of a medical class making losses all over the year. The trend we are seeing at the moment, it's this year it may make a profit. Why? Because of COVID. Instead of it making a loss because of COVID, they has made a profit. Why? Most of us decided not to go to hospitals during the COVID period. You see some of these interesting dynamics.
And most of us, of course, did not drive our cars as much
Most
during
of us
COVID-19.
did not. Actually, Moto Private may also make an underrated profit because of the same issue. So I think COVID has not really affected the insurance industry much.
Washington, do you get the same feeling?
Well, we don't. I don't get the same feeling. Well, you know, Mr. Kalai is my friend. He's a regulator, and I'm very, very happy that Mr. Kalai is here. There's some important questions that you need to answer for us. Now, wow, all I know is that Mr. Kalai, if you've been checking the figures, there have been so many people who've been laid off. You know, there are people who the businesses really did not do very well because of the curfew, the reduced hours. There are people who, for example, in Moto Insurance, you find someone is doing comprehensive, but because of COVID, because of the reduced economic activity, they've gone back, for example, to third-party cover. Third-party cover, of course, is cheaper. But you're saying, let's wait for the figures to come in. Well, of course, there are those dynamics of, for example, that medical, it's amazing that the medical class of insurance actually made profits. That's very, very weird, because you know medical usually doesn't make any profits in this country. But those kind of dynamics, maybe they might balance the issue of, for example, the economy was down, people didn't insure so much, and the fact that also people feared, for example, like Mr. Kalai is talking about not having so many cars on the road, for example. We also know that there are so many, especially in the motor class of business, so many cars actually get accidents because of these late night drinking and stuff. That has not been happening during the COVID time because of the curfew. There could be some form of dynamics, but all I know is that as far as the issue of premiums increase is concerned, I don't expect that big increase, for example, like or that order of 6% like you've been having the previous years. There could be a slight increase because I think we need to understand that the issue of insurance is the fact that it's a compulsory insurance, especially in motor. And I keep arguing, if motor insurance is not compulsory, I think the penetration of insurance in this country will be like 0.1%. You know, I mean, the name is that bad out there.
All right. We'll come back to that, Washington, and interesting the point you make, of course, about how COVID has affected insurance, because we have some numbers that have shown surrenders and withdrawals, policy cancellations hitting, I think, 5 billion shillings, if I'm not wrong, for the first time from 4-point-something billion shillings. But we will be continuing that discussion after this short break. We will continue the discussion. We will also be sampling perhaps some of your feedback. Continue engaging us on social media, #NewNormal on Twitter, at NTV Kenya, and at Victor Kiprop _. Don't go anywhere.
Mom, we can't keep up with the charade. You can't fake a pregnancy.
We'll take care of that later, darling. When Matthias has signed the marriage certificate so that the contract tying him to you for 10 years will be valid. And so not a word about this to anybody. Is that clear?
Watch out!
I think it's strange that no one from La Bonita has come home since we called an alert.
Please help me! I'm in here!
Timeless love.
Heaviness and a burning inside, it could be heartburn.
Indigestion and heartburn? Eno gets to work in 6 seconds and works on the 6 symptoms of heartburn so you can keep living life non-stop. Eno, fight heartburn and indigestion fast.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Auntie Lina.
Thank you for making us.
Thank you for making us your favorite drive show crew.
Nation FM, we love you.
Oh, thank you, people. This is the biggest of stitches. I got you good.
Ni wanyama wamechizi yani.
Tunajibamba na show yenyu. Muendelee hivyo hivyo.
I came to rap it up, do my thing, my thing.
Thank you for listening to 96.3 Nation FM.
Of course, Antona Obina.
And Obina.
Call him taking control.
Mad love, mad respect. Wow.
I run the city.
Fact Finder from the BBC.
Why are there few oncologists in Africa and what's the impact on cancer treatment? We tell you what we found out.
The number is not enough, but of course they are helping to provide a quality cancer treatment to our patients.
This immigration scam goes viral online. We found out how it started and why some people fell for it.
And did an airline fat shame its passengers? We tell you why it stopped them from moving seats.
And protecting public safety or endangering human rights, we look at how facial recognition technology is being used around the world.
Try Panadol Advance for relief from headaches, body aches, and fever. With Panadol's Optizorb formula, the tablet gently breaks down in the stomach, quickly absorbs, and starts providing pain relief in 15 minutes. For fast and effective pain relief that you can trust, try Panadol Advance.
Welcome back to Your World on NTV Kenya. This morning we are discussing the state of insurance in Kenya, and as we try to answer the question on why Kenyans are not getting insured as much as they should be, as we promised you, we also went around and asked Kenyans what they think, and I think we have some voices from people who spoke in Eldoret.
Na changamoto kubwa sana kwa mambo ya insurance, kwa sababu ukiona NHIF serikali wanataka kweli tulipe kila mwezi, ambayo watu wengi hawawezi kwa sababu ya mshahara haiendi pamoja na kila mwezi. Mshahara saa zingine inapita, ndio unaona watu walipi insurance kwa njia inayofaa. Na kulingana na insurance tena ya manyumba, manyumba ingekuwa na insurance, lakini watu waelewi sana. Kwa hivyo tunaomba tu watu wa insurance waendelee kueleza watu jinsi ya security insurance ya manyumba, insurance ya biashara yote.
The little money I get, I just do for school fees. I pay for my school fees and my son's school fees, and there's a rent, so you can't get that money to go and get insurance. For me, it has been a little hard. That's why I cannot get insurance cover.
Reason moja sina insurance ni juu sina hiyo pesa ya kulipa insurance. Pesa yenye napata ni ya kulipa rent, nilipe chakula, ninunue ni chakula. So hiyo insurance hizi sina kabisa. Najua insurance ni poa, but sasa sina hiyo pesa. Pesa yenye tunapata ni ya inaitwanga hand to mouth.
Insurance ni ngumu kulipa. Hata kwa kwanza NHIF kwanza hatuna maisha, kwa sababu hatuna kazi, hatuna chochote. Maisha imekuwa ngumu. hata kwa biashara peke yake inakuwa ngumu. Sisi tufanye namna gani? Tunakimbia pale na pale ndio tupate school fees, na watoto hawana kazi.
Right, residents of Eldoret Rail giving their points on why they have not perhaps insured themselves or their businesses or property as much as they should have. Remember, we asked you in our question of the day, have you insured yourself, your business or property against any risk? And if not, tell us why. Use the hashtag #NewNormal on Twitter at Victor Kiprop and at NTV Kenya. And I think we have some feedback so far. Barbie Teresa says, haven't, cause I don't know where to start. By the way, I'd like to insure my household items. Does that count? I think we will be getting Mr. Musee to answer that. Odhiambo Isabella says, the rate at which this country is borrowing money, whether I insure myself or business or not, we are all still at risk. Very interesting. And then finally we have Clifford Ouma Clifford saying, can't afford. Christine, clearly the main point from all those discussions is affordability. How much of a problem is this? Do you think our policies are not affordable? And what does this then mean about our economy in general?
Affordability, mind, if you don't think you can afford insurance, you definitely won't. But in terms of your cash flow and budget, insurance should definitely be.
I think we are struggling to get Christine. We'll be coming back to her, but let me come back to Washington. Most of the speakers have spoken about affordability. Let me come back to this. Is this then a reflection of how the economy is, that most Kenyans cannot afford insurance?
Yeah, you're right, Victor. The issue of affordability, actually, I don't think it's really the issue of affordability. It's the issue of priority. You know, people don't prioritize insurance as they're supposed to prioritize. Because if you prioritized, whatever you prioritize for, you're going to keep funds for, so to speak. So people don't value insurance in this country as something that to really prioritize. For example, if you think between thinking about the future, the calamity that may befall you, and right now, a person will say, well, let me cross the bridge when I get there. At this particular time, I don't think insurance is very, very important for me. But also when I get there, who's going to be there for me? Because it's all about, I mean, there's that inherent human thing in someone that you need to look at the future and think, what's going to happen in future if XYZ happens to me?
Good.
If you,
But again, I mean, one would argue that it's also an issue of how perhaps stiff these policies can be. I mean, if I am a farmer, I get my harvest, let's say, periodically. If I plant in January, I get it in April. Do we have insurance policies that allow me to also perhaps keep paying, but or the policies are just designed for those who earn a monthly salary?
Wow. The good thing, maybe I can answer that even actually for the regulator to say that they're doing something very, very good, something called microinsurance. Microinsurance is basically how you have some form of insurance. It could be small in terms of benefits, but also the amounts you pay for the same cover is actually a little amount of money that's affordable, you know? Although, of course, most people who are employed are the ones actually who take up insurance, which is a very, very good thing, by the way. Because just like I was telling you, Victor, the issue of, you can see there's something that can happen to you in future, but what measures are you taking, for example, to mitigate that? Are you looking at maybe social insurance? Are you looking at Harambes to come through for you? Are you looking at, do you think really that insurance companies, for example, really have your interest at heart, or is it about making money for them, you know? You know, are you even sure that even the small amounts of money that you pay and you're really going to be at peace, for example? Because all these people, let me tell who've been interviewed on the streets, it's all a matter of the confidence that they have that these companies are going to come through for them. If they were double sure the companies are going to come through for them, I don't think there would really be an issue. The penetration insurance would really shoot through the roof. So it's all a matter of how the confidence that the members of the public have in the insurance sector.
Mr. Musee, Washington is making some really interesting comments here, which I've also perhaps seen from some members of the public. The moment we put out this poster yesterday, someone said they lost their car and they've been taken in rounds and rounds and rounds by the insurance company. And clearly this is much of a concern. How much does it concern you as the regulator, and perhaps do we have mechanisms of addressing this?
Yes, yes, Victor. I think it's true. You may get a few cases here and there where there are delays. Yeah, a few delays. Actually, majority of companies pay, and claims are paid within 14 days in most of the companies. You can get your claim paid in 14 days. But there could be a few cases of delays here and there by some companies, which is something we address. In fact, we have a department which deals with that if you have issues with any company there where they are not paying, you can actually come and report to the authority, and the issue will be addressed. So that one is there. But I want to touch on microinsurance that Washington has touched on, because to me, that could be a cure for this issue of affordability of insurance and increasing penetration. Of course, the regulations came out last year. They are now in place. As we are talking now, people are applying to establish microinsurance companies. These are companies who have slightly different requirement from the other companies. The capital is lower, is 50 million. With the 50 million, apart from the 600 required for the others, with the 50 million, you can start this company. There are some unique requirements. For example, Washington talked about how long it takes to pay claims. This one, the claim must be paid within 10 days. So with those regulations, and the premiums are quite low. In fact, we are talking of premiums of something like raising 40 shillings in a day or 20 shillings, maximum 40 shillings in a day. That's a microinsurance product. So the premiums must be low. If it's 10 bob, you can afford 10 bob, that's what you will pay, and you can get your cover suitable for the risk you are insuring. So we think this will be able to penetrate those people who are not covered. The majority of Kenyans who earn low incomes, and they are not able to cover their risks with the current products we have in the market. This will be able to assist in that.
Kristen, let me bring you back to this. Clearly, the point raised by most of the speakers was an issue of affordability, and he has mentioned about what the regulator is doing, issues about microinsurance to ensure that perhaps even people who don't have a monthly income and actually have low income can be able to have some sort of an insurance. Do you think this is the solution we need? And then there's also the concern about, do you think for a long time most of our insurance policies are always targeted at the middle class and no one cares about the rest of the population?
Thank you. I actually agree about microinsurance. I think the issue we have in Kenya is people are not aware of the products that are available. So that's why they think that maybe they're too expensive or they'll never cover their needs. But microinsurance is starting to get into the lower markets. And it's really good. Just like has been said, 10 shillings a day, 20 shillings a day, 30 shillings a day. And then in terms of just for people to understand, I think there hasn't been enough drive, the awareness drives or the activations, just for people to know that these insurance policies are available. For the middle class, I would just say that even for them, education and literacy in insurance is not all that good. They still get surprised when they find that their policies are not giving them value for money because maybe they didn't read the fine print. So I think all around, a lot of education is needed in this area, because insurance is not bad. You just need to get the right product that suits your needs.
Good. How much of a problem is education or educating members of the public? Because I think later in this discussion, we're going to talk about the issue of how much people are not aware of what exactly is in their contracts. So at the end of the day, when you're supposed to be compensated, you realize, oh, my contracts was saying otherwise. You're a regulator. As a regulator, how much of a priority do you place upon educating members of the public? Do you think you're doing the job right?
Okay, yeah, education is a big thing. Actually, the mandate of the authority is to supervise, regulate, and promote the development of the industry. So development is, education is part of that mandate of development. And as an authority, we took that very seriously. Actually, I think our biggest budget goes to consumer education. And that's why we see many times we go on TV, radio, and we have programs on the ground all over the country. In fact, what we did first was to go to all the 47 counties and trained at least 100 agents. Not to work as agents, but to have that knowledge which they can disseminate to other people in the counties. So every county has at least 100 trained agents with certificates who have been trained. Then now we have campaigns all over the counties. We go around, educate people about insurance. We get people, the opinion leaders in the communities. We put them together for 2 days. We discuss insurance. They go and disseminate that information. So consumer education is key. It's very important so that we can address that problem that Christine is talking about.
Which is interesting because we have numbers, I think, from the Association of Kenya Insurers that show that about 80%, if I'm not wrong, you can correct me on this, of the premiums we collect in Kenya are actually in Nairobi. I mean, what does that say? Don't you think we have insurable risks up country?
That's very true. But probably some years back it was quite different. We have made a lot of moves in the counties. Even devolution has also assisted. Before devolution, I don't think there was any insurance in the counties, out in the counties. So that's why we are going to the counties to ensure that we enhance that so that we don't have everything coming from Nairobi.
Washington, 80% of our premiums in Nairobi. What does that say about how our insurance companies sell their policies?
Well, I can't say. I think the major issue is that there's a lot of economic activity actually happening in this city. That skewedness of resources, I think, is what devolution is supposed to address and cover. Because it doesn't make sense for 80% of the 80% of economy, for example, is concentrated in the Nairobi province.
Maybe to interrupt you on that, we have the gross county report from the KNBS, I think in 2019, if I'm not wrong, which showed that actually, contrary to what politicians have been shouting in public, the amount of GDP of our economy actually concentrated in Nairobi is just slightly above 26%, which means we still have a lot of wealth outside there. And then that brings my question, how are we doing enough to perhaps sell these policies to, let's say, a cattle farmer in Garissa and tell him that he can insure his cattle against, the drought?
Well, with that change of information, then I think what you should be talking about then is there could be more awareness about insurance in Nairobi more than these other counties. But that is expected. In big towns, information disseminates very, very fast. There's a lot of interaction with people about what to do and how not to do. If, for example, that's what even we find in a town like Nairobi. If there's something like a pyramid scheme happening, the people who be called most are those people who will be in Nairobi, But like the regulator is saying about the dissemination of information to the counties, to the rest of the country, it's very, very good, actually, that Kalai has said that they are doing that. Then we've got also to look at this. There's something I've been suggesting that the regulator should actually also do this in conjunction with the insurance agents of this country. Remember, as insurance agents in this country, we're over 10,000. 10,000, that's a big number. And insurance agents are the ones who are found in those very, very remote areas on all corners of this country. You at least find one insurance agent trying to do his thing, so to speak.
Let me bring in Christine at this point. I think the other aspect that we mentioned, we keep saying a significant percentage of our population is actually young people. I don't know, from your interactions out there, what is the perception of the youth towards insurance? Do they think it's something they should consider? And perhaps do you think also the education that we mentioned, do we need to invest more in educating the youth on the importance of insurance?
Yes, I think, this is just the topic of the day, because Yes, youth actually have a very skewed perception. They think insurance is a scam. They don't think it's necessary. They don't think it will pay out claims. So a lot of them avoid taking insurance, even the ones in SME and micro SME business. I have clients who are, say, in the creative business, events management, photography, and they haven't insured their equipment. So I always talk to them and I ask them, if someone was to steal your equipment or damage your equipment, what would happen to you? You'd have to start from scratch. So I think that the youth definitely need a lot more engagement just to understand the products that are available. And even the ones who work in different industries, there are things like the fidelity guarantee insurance, which if you're in fast moving goods, it helps you in case your employees steal product from you. So I think we just need a lot of financial literacy in terms of the different products that are available and that will actually penetrate now the markets, including the youth sector.
Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful insights from Christine there. And I think we have spoken about this sector in so many aspects, but I don't think it's all doom and gloom. When we come back, we'll focus slightly about the remaining pitfalls, perhaps what you should look out when you're buying an insurance policy, the do's and don'ts of buying an insurance policy. And we question whether there's actually any opportunity for growth in this industry. And Christine will be advising us on the best ways to actually take up an insurance and also make it some sort of an investment. All that when we come back from this break. We'll also be sampling some of your feedback. Keep sending them on social media at NTV Kenya, at Victor Kiprop _ on Twitter. Use the hashtag #NewNormal. You can also follow the discussion on Facebook and Instagram.
Gauge 28 at 670 Kenya shillings. Gauge 30 at 370. Gauge 30 Med at 530. Royal Alu Zinc at 280 Kenya shillings. Call us today on 0722 638383. Royal Mabati Factory Limited. We are the best.
Kijani Ridge is Tatu City's premier neighborhood, offering a 1.5 acre fully serviced plot in a controlled development. The plots overlook a beautiful dam with natural green spaces. Kijani Ridge is a walking distance from Nova Pioneer and Crawford International Schools. Families are already moved in and more homes are under construction. Contact us for daily site visits and join us for our mega open weekend on 6th and 7th March.
Maji mdosi wangu ametupa simu yangu ndani ya maji.
Mdosi wako kwa sawa? Venye Nkirota ameniambia ajui na akimpigia simu ashiki. Hey! Guy! What the?
For the women who deserve more, Moped is now in Kenya and more than 40 countries. With its nylon-free surface, new Moped has unique softness and up to 100% protection. Your skin will love it.
I'm not going to allow Roberta to marry him when she hasn't been honest. When she hid from him things as important as her involvement with Rafael. And also, she has done everything possible to ruin me.
Could it be that he cheated on you because you could never give him a son? Maybe I can do that and we can raise him together.
Please, I'm begging you to take me to the hospital.
Oh, sure, I'm going to take you to a hospital. Of course I will, but tomorrow. Now, if you don't want your future husband to call off the wedding at once, you and I have to fix this small problem. Is that clear?
Timeless love.
Beat sensitivity pain fast with Sensodyne Rapid Action for clinically proven relief in 60 seconds.
Mom, we can't keep up with the charade. You can't fake a pregnancy.
We'll take care of that later, darling. When Matthias has signed the marriage certificate so that the contract tying him to you for 10 years will be valid. And so not a word about this to anybody. Is that clear?
Watch out!
I think it's strange that no one from La Bonita has come home since we called an alert.
Please help me! I'm in here!
Timeless love.
Heaviness and a burning inside. It could be heartburn.
Indigestion and heartburn? Eno gets to work in 6 seconds and works on the 6 symptoms of heartburn so you can keep living life non-stop. Eno, fight heartburn and indigestion fast.
Try Panadol Advance for relief from headaches, body aches, and fever. With Panadol's Optizorb formula, the tablet gently breaks down in the stomach, quickly absorbs, and starts providing pain relief in 15 minutes. For fast and effective pain relief that you can trust, try Panadol Advance.
Welcome back to Your World on NTV Kenya. As we mentioned earlier, we're focusing on the state of insurance in the country. And we also welcome you to join the discussion. Please send us your feedback on Twitter, on social media, on Facebook and Instagram. We are also opening up our lines, by the way. We have a representative of the Insurance Regulatory Authority. Have you had any problem with getting your claims compensated? Maybe they can help you on avenues to pursue that. We have a financial consultant with us who can help you on the best ways to perhaps invest the money that you want to put in insurance as we continue this discussion. But for the moment, even before we come back, I think we have more voices from Kiambu and Mombasa.
I have life insurance. Now if anything happens to me, my estate can see what to do. There's medical insurance. It's important that people have insurance against this risk. Business-wise, I can't emphasize how much insurance is important in terms of insuring your business. Because let's say in the recent past, things like terrorism, we did not capture in our insurance portfolios. Things like fire, those ones are already there in most insurance policies. It is important that us as Kenyan citizens, we get abreast with the information regarding keeping ourselves safe from risks that may come by us.
It is important for everybody in Kenya to get insurance for medical, for properties, for anything else. Because when any calamities arise, in case of compensation, it is easy for insurance company to compensate you back whatever you have lost. So I urge everybody at least to have insurance.
Insurance mimi nina cover kwa sababu natambua maana ya kuwa insured. Kila kitu kinaweza fanyika, mimi naweza pata ajali na mimi sitaki familia yangu iwe ikiteseka miaka yangu yote. Na ni ya muhimu sana kila mtu akuwe insured. Yeye kibinafsi ukiweza kuinsure kama ni gari lako ama ni pikipiki yako ama ni bodaboda yako na pia hata ukiwa na biashara.
Great. Clearly, a section of Kenyans are also well informed on the importance and why they perhaps need to insure themselves, their businesses or property, and they've been giving their opinions from Mombasa and Kiambu on why they're actually insuring themselves against any risk. But let's go back to the point about civic education, Mr. Musee. The complaint I got last week was that most of this insurance policies, the way we sell them is just a smartly dressed gentleman or lady giving you a brochure telling you how, if you have any loss, we are going to compensate you. No one educates you on the risks, or no one gives you a chance to look at your contract. And then when tomorrow you try to claim, you're told you see clause 17, page number 7 of your contract says you cannot be compensated because of this and that. What do you think?
Okay, I think To some extent, I agree with that. But before I talk about that, I can touch a bit about the youth, the one we talked about.
Okay.
I think, to me, the problem with the youth is the industry. Because the kind of policies or the way we sell insurance at the moment, I don't think the youth will go for that. Tell a young man to fill a 3-page proposal form with a very small print where you can't, they want something instant. They want something instant. So I think there's an opportunity there for the industry to look at how to tap the youth. We have a problem with that. Now, about the policy documents, I agree with you. The policy documents we use in Kenya were borrowed from UK many years ago. When you look at the language used, very legal. Yeah, in, blah, blah, things like that. When you look at the print, very small print. Many cases, the most important things are put in small print so that you can see. Exclusions, they are not clearly legible. That has been a tradition over the years. When IRA came into place, we decided to change that. And we had a project where we reviewed all the policy documents. So we had a team reviewing all the policy documents, changing the language, increasing the fonts. Now we have a requirement on how the fonts you are required to have in your policy document. And we gave that to the industry as a guidance for them to use. Now, that is done. Where we are now is how we give this information to our clients. Actually, when a policy is sold to you, for example, a life policy, and Washington can explain that more, because that's what he does, you're actually supposed to read that policy and make your decision before we can say now we are on cover. You are supposed to read, sign that I have read and understood the contents of this, ask everything, especially the exclusions, what is covered, what is not covered, and then once you understand it's when you are supposed to sign, and then the insurance company goes on cover. Maybe that is what we don't do very well, and that's, I think, the point we need to improve on. Maybe my friend Washington can talk a bit about that. How do we do it on the ground?
Washington is invited into the discussion. What do you think?
Thank you very much, Mr. Kalai. He's been a friend of mine. I've been encouraging him a lot at the regulator's office and giving a lot of advice because we are the foot soldiers of the ground. We know exactly what happens on the ground. Now, the biggest issue we have with the insurance industry actually is the issue of rogue insurance agents. The insurance agency fraternity has found fertile ground for conmen. People who've been out there and they're easy fleecing our clients, so to speak. When we talk about explaining, for example, I've been in the insurance for the last 20 years. I've survived because I've taken it as a profession. I've taken it as a way, for example, if I come to you, Victor, I'll explain to you, I'll take time with you. I'll not walk in and walk out, for example, in the next like 15, 20 minutes. I'll give you and ask you, do you have the time to do this? If you give me 1 hour, 2 hours, I'll make sure you exactly understand everything. Because, of course, you also have your own perception about insurance you've had from elsewhere, you know? Like I was giving an example, maybe your brother got insured and then along the way, he was not, his claim was not paid. I'll take pains to explain all that. But what's the biggest problem? The issue of rogue insurance agents. And there are many, many, running into thousands. When we came, when I established this association of insurance agents, Bima Intermediate Association of Kenya, one of the issues was to take care of these rogue agents, to make sure that things are done professionally in this country, to make sure that we get rid of all these rogue agents in the sector. And I need a lot of help from Kalai to do that. Because what you find is that somehow these people still keep on surviving. They are not doing anyone a service, so to speak. They are not doing the insurance industry. They are not doing our clients. They are not doing the reputation of the sector. You know, it's a big, big problem. But I would say that's the elephant in the room right now. I mean, when I talk about 10,000 insurance agents, 60% are people who don't know exactly what they are doing. And that's why we find, for example, I was thinking about that last evening. And you find that last year we had about 12,000 licensed insurance agents. This year we have about 7,000. That difference of 5,000, where are those people? You know, that's
who's supposed to be licensing these people, Washington?
That's you're with him right there opposite you. He's right over there. Talk to him.
Good. I'm going to come back to you, Musee, and I know Christine also has something to say, but I think we have a caller. Simon from Bungoma, do you have a question or a comment? Simon? Simon, if you can hear me, do you have a question or a comment? All right, I think we are struggling to find Simon here. I think he's back. Simon, if you can hear me, do you have a question or a comment for our panelists?
Yes, I have a question.
Yes, go ahead.
That is when one has a policy and the policy relaxes for the insurance agents. I mean, the insurance company, how can one get help when one has a problem with an insurance company?
I think we will try to go back to Simon on what is the point he was exactly trying to make on that. And I think even as we wait for Simon to come back, Christine, I raised the point about the people who come to sell an insurance policy for you, smartly dressed, not necessarily a contract, but some sort of a very attractive brochure. And I think you've met some of them, the people that Washington is calling rogue in the streets. The way they sell SIM cards in the streets is very quick. And I think this is why we end up with a huge figure of 35 point something billion shillings in unremitted premiums. How much of a damage is this doing to perhaps the young people who are so pessimistic and skeptic?
Yes, first I agree with what Washington has said in terms of the high majority of rogue agents. And I think if they could be regulated, it would solve so much in terms of the perception towards insurance. I would just say, just like I think our IRA authority has told us, the fine print needs to be emphasized. There needs to be different ways of explaining the policy, just like Washington has said, in terms of taking time for the client to understand. But there are also, as you mentioned earlier, the do's and the don'ts. And if I can just run through them let's talk about health. Health insurance, you need to know the hospitals that are going to be under your policy. You need to know the doctors that are going to be part of your policy. You need to know what is constituted as a dependent, because you could have a dependent who is a parent or a cousin and not maybe a child. So when it comes to life insurance, the questions to ask are what amount goes up, what amount on my premium goes up in case I get a chronic illness, what will happen with that, and what sorts of policies are there. There is term assurance, which is usually the most affordable one. It's more affordable than whole of life most of the time. So those are some of the things, if people could just ask the right questions. When it comes to endowment policies, it's prudent to ask what amount of my premium is going to charges, what amount is going to commissions, just to find out in terms of what will be left to invest and what will be left on the insurance part of your policy. So I would just say they need to be, there needs to be the education part, but also I like what Washington said about taking time. These agents need to take time to explain the policies, the fine print, to know, for example, when will I get my money and how much will it be in 5 years, in 6 years, in 7 years, which is not stipulated in the normal 2 years, 5 years, 10 years, written in the policy document.
Christine, I think part of the problem has also been the way these things are worded, because if you tell me that within 10 years I'm going to be compensated, or once this matures, or in case of any death I'm going to my family is going to be compensated. But we also have situations where this policies state that, for instance, if you miss a premium for a consecutive 3 months, even if you've been paying for, let's say, 3 years, you lose the entire investment that you have had. How much of flexibility do we need in these policies?
Well, I think the nature of the policies are very structured. So I don't think it's in terms of asking the insurance companies to make them flexible. The nature of the policies are like that. But when it comes to a client, they need to understand that, yes, in the next 3-6 months, you need to continue paying, or the next 2 years, you need to continue paying your premiums. And if you stop, you will incur a loss. And then in terms of there's also a cooling off period. When you sign a policy, there should be a cooling off period where you can change your mind and not incur a loss in that period. And then you ask about surrender value. If I lose my job and I can't pay for 3 months, what will my surrender value be? So I think the nature of the policies are very structured. We can't really make them flexible. It just needs to be spelled out at the beginning when the client signs up for that policy.
Okay, I think we have Simon back. Simon, if you're back with us, what's your question or comment? And make sure you reduce the volume of your TV, please.
Good morning, everybody.
Yes. Good morning, Simon.
Yes. Yes, my question is that when one has gotten a problem with an insurance company, maybe you have a policy and the company doesn't communicate to you to tell you the progress of your contribution of your premium, then it elapses. How can one get help? Because the insurance company seems to be hard and non-communicative. How can one get help? That's my question. Thank you.
Thank you, Simon. I think you've taken note of his question because we still have David from Nairobi. David, if you can hear me, please shoot your question or comment.
Okay. Hello. Hello.
Go ahead, David. Go ahead.
Okay,
we can hear
David, you. I have a question.
Yes.
I had a policy with one of the insurance companies around.
Yes.
The life assurance.
Yes.
And I had serviced it for almost 4 years. Yeah. Then I took a loan against the policy, so they're the one who didn't have the document. Then unfortunately, after the corona, I have not been able to service my policies.
Yeah.
So I was wondering, what should be the worst outcome?
Good. Thank you very much, David. I think Mr. Musee and Washington should be able to answer both of the questions, but I'm going to come back to Christine on this. You mentioned about how this contracts are structured and perhaps they may not be as flexible as we want them to be. But if you just heard from David from Nairobi, he's been paying his premiums timely for 4 years, and then he's just lost his job, let's say momentarily, for 3 or 4 months. And then after that, probably he's found something else. And even when he's ready to resume his payments, he's told, by the way, that thing has expired and you're not getting even a cent. So for instance, if you've been contributing 30,000 shillings a month, that amount goes into millions of shillings. Is that amount supposed to go to West, Christine?
Sadly, a lot of products are structured that way, which is why in the fine print, it's actually spelled out. It's spelled out that the first, say, 3 years, you must continue with your premium. So unfortunately, some of the products are structured that way. What I would advise him to do would be to ask the insurance agent to just hold the funds. Then when he gets a job, he can actually revive the policy and then be able to access once it attains a surrender value, which might take another 1 or 2 years of continuing to pay premiums. So it's not that it will become immediately active and he'll be able to encash. But he can ask them just to keep it for him, as that is now when you have a one-on-one relationship with an agent. You can ask him just to keep the funds there. Then once David gets his income back running, then he can resume and revive the policy. And once it attains a surrender value, then he'll be able to encash it for its true value of everything he's put in at the beginning. But it does take a lot, and you'd have to have a good relationship with your insurance agent. But it all is not lost. He just needs to probably find a way to restructure the program once he gets an income.
Thank you, Christine. Mr. Musee, I think this is what Washington was talking about earlier, and what he's talked about, the youth wondering whether this is some sort of a scam, and sometimes you have to wonder, do the insurance practitioners or companies actually have the interests of their clients at heart?
Yes, they do.
Because I think if you really have my interest at heart and you understand that I just missed my payment because of only one month, you should be able to understand that this and that happened. My wife was not feeling well, and allow me to resume remitting my payments.
Actually, again, I'll go to the issue of understanding the policy documents, because the policy document has wordings on each and everything. What will happen if I don't pay one premium? This is what will happen. As a policy order, has that been explained to you? Do you understand that those are the consequences? Now, the issue is, actually, when COVID came in, even the authority issued a guideline to the industry, telling the insurance industry, now there is COVID. People are going to lose jobs. Don't lapse policies because people have lost jobs. Talk to them, come into an understanding. If there's need to give, we call it a premium holiday, like Christine is saying, give them a premium holiday so that whenever they get back their income, they can continue with their policy. We actually gave that guideline. So it's an issue of policy orders, really understanding the policies they have, because policies are different, with different requirements. So you just need to understand that policy, and once you have an issue, all you need to do is talk to your agent, talk to your insurer, explain that now I'm in this kind of situation. How do we go forward? And actually policies provide for that. It can be done. Now, I was listening probably to David. Even Simon, I think yes, he could be experiencing the same problem, that he couldn't pay for his policy and he sat down and waited. That is wrong. That is wrong. Once you have an issue, talk to your agent, talk to your company. They will give you an understanding on how to move forward in that kind of situation. So it's an issue of understanding what to do in that kind of situation. Don't be ashamed because you can't pay. Just come out, explain yourself, and you get assisted.
All right. Let me go back to a question I meant to ask you earlier, and I think it's something that Washington raised. So we have situation, you saw the figure about 35 billion shillings of unremitted premiums. How much is of that of a concern is that to you? And then number two, we have insurance companies that we believe have sort of gone under in a way. They're still collecting premiums. We have insurance agents that Washington has said are certainly rogue. Why are they being allowed to operate in this sector? And of course, scare away the very few young people who might want to take up insurance.
Okay. I think we regulate the whole insurance industry. It's a huge industry, 10,000 agents, over 10,000, over 500 other service providers who people don't talk about, who are also regulated. Over 60 insurance companies, over 200 brokers. So these are people we regulate. You can't miss rogue culprits in the process. All the time you get them. In fact, you may be aware we established an anti-fraud investigation unit, insurance fraud investigation unit, to try and control some of these things. If you look at the statistics from that unit, you find a lot of, actually majority of them are the agents Washington is talking about, wrong agents who come to you. You give them money. They tell you they'll cover you. They don't remit the money to the insurance company. The insurance company records that as outstanding. Partly the policy was issued, but the money will never go. Probably you may not even get that cover. It was cancelled. You are not aware. The policy was cancelled and you may not be aware because your agent never communicated that information to you. They will not if they kept the premiums. So if you look at the statistics from the unit, actually there is a lot of that and we are addressing it. Actually, that's why we established this unit to try and establish most of these things. But we work together with the industry players so that we ensure that we identify all these rogue players in the market and remove them.
And in doing that, do you? I don't want to ask anyone else. They might be unfair. Do you think, as a regulator, you're doing a good job in that?
Yes, we are doing a good job.
Okay.
We are doing a good job.
Okay.
I think it's an issue of comparing where we have with where we have come from. If you look at where we have come from, 10 years, 20 years, there's a big change.
Good.
There's a big change.
Christine, let me come back to you on this. I think, as I mentioned earlier, it's been some sort of all doom and gloom about this sector. But again, you and I will agree that this is a sector that we definitely need if our economy is going to continue growing. Is there an opportunity for growth, Christine?
There's so much opportunity for growth. I think once education goes out and goes into the rural areas, especially in terms of the microfinance, there's so much room for growth. But people just need the education to understand the different policies, whether it's to cover their equipment, farm equipment or whatever it is, their homes, domestic insurance, contents, all of those. So I think, I don't know, I would just suggest maybe the insurance agents need to go on to maybe a CSR mission, go into the rural areas, maybe marginalized communities, and really amp that up. And then probably once people see insurance companies as caring about communities and things like that, more and more, they're going to trust them with their businesses. They're going to trust them with their home insurance. They're going to trust them with their health and even life insurance. So there's so many opportunities, and if they need any options, I'm able to give suggestions on where they can go and support these communities.
Washington, let me take you back to the point that you mentioned that you have agents perhaps across the country. But from where you sit, the same question I asked Christine, where is the opportunity for growth in the sector?
The opportunity for growth definitely is there, but you've got to look at it in terms of going digital, you know. COVID-19 taught us a lot, that you can be able to do insurance. You don't have to do insurance, for example, face-to-face. You can do that using a virtual, communicating virtually with your clients. You can do that through what we call telesales. You should be able to sell through the phone. But the biggest issue there's something that we need to tackle. This issue of having so many rogue agents in the sector, it's an issue that should not be taken lightly. Because I appreciate what IRA has done. It's done a very, very good thing, by the way, establishing of the that unit, the IFIU, Insurance Fraud Investigation Unit. But sometimes I feel they're actually overwhelmed, because when you look at the numbers of the agents that you're talking about being rogue into their thousands, how many cases can you solve in a year, you know, as far as fraud is concerned? And it comes to the point of, we as industry players, as insurance agents, as an organization of Bima intermediaries, we know who these rogue agents are. We know them one by one. Why can't we be given teeth to be able to get rid of these people? You know, that will have to have come from Kalai. Kalai needs to give me permission to be able to identify these people so that we can save the sector. I can tell you, if things were done rightly in this country, the insurance industry in Kenya would be miles ahead even of South Africa. That's what I can tell you.
I like the point about technology, and I think maybe if my director can help me, we have a story on one of the insurance companies is doing with regards to technology and helping it grow. And usage-based insurance has been gaining popularity across the world, but recently with the massive shift to remote working due to the COVID-19, demand for such solutions has been amplified. Let's take a look at my discussion with the CEO of Heritage Insurance, which is currently running a telematics-based solution which rewards careful drivers with cashbacks on their premiums as it prepares to fully venture into the world of usage-based motor insurance.
Traditionally, the motor insurance category is a loss maker, having raked in an underwriting loss of 7.3 billion shillings in 2019. During the COVID-19 period, however, things have been a little bit different.
With reduced movement, during especially in the period from March to June, we saw most motorists stay at home. There was no interprovincial transport, and people were generally more careful. And we saw motor claims actually drop, and that has released some reasonable profit for the sector.
But with many people working from home and driving their cars less, many policyholders are starting to reevaluate the value of their traditional motor insurance covers.
And I think it's time for us to start introducing some usage-based insurance where you are only charged for what you use. And I think Heritage, if I may say so, has started on this journey. Last year we introduced a telematics insurance product, and the whole of that was meant to try and influence your driving behavior positively.
Dubbed autocorrect, the software collects and transmits data on driver behavior and calculates a driver's score. Higher scores are rewarded with cashbacks of up to 15% of their annual premiums and also accumulate loyalty points that can be redeemed, potentially helping cut the frequency of accidents.
If we could influence the way you drive to be more conscious about the speed, the braking, the cornering, and acceleration, those 4 factors would probably get a 2% reduction in losses, in claims, and that would be very good, because you are aware that if you drive well, you are likely to be charged a lower profit, and if you drive a lower premium, and if you drive badly, you are likely to affect the way you are rated and accepted by insurance companies.
The technology also helps notify the insurer instantly in case of an accident, after which the process of compensation begins. With fraudulent claims estimated to make up to 40% of the total claims in the insurance industry, insurers in the motor category now hope the technology can help minimize cases of fraud. In the future, stakeholders believe the discussion has to go beyond pricing.
How do we start making us talk about the benefit that we are pricing on this telematics capability, so that it becomes a discussion about benefits and value add, as opposed to just a traditional, you compensate me for an accident that I have received.
According to data from the Association of Kenya Insurers, 30 companies made losses from insuring private cars in 2019, up from 23 in the previous year. Victor Kiprop, NTV Business.
Great. I think it's time to take a break. Once we come back, we will be looking at, we'll be continuing to look at the role of technology in growing the sector, opportunities for growth, and the best ways to invest in this insurance sector. We'll also be sampling some of your feedback, which you've been sending us on social media. Keep sending them on Twitter, #NewNormal, @NTV Kenya, and @VictorKiprop_. Don't go anywhere.
Working together today, it is creating opportunities for a lifetime of happiness. The future is bright because you can always bank on family. Family Bank, with you for life.
News from Molfix. Let's see what they're developing right now.
Pants is just for me. It really feels very comfy.
Molfix pants with anatomic fit technology. New Molfix pants, an invention from babies for babies.
You should also try Molfix.
Heaviness and a burning inside. It could be heartburn.
Indigestion and heartburn? Eno gets to work in 6 seconds and works on the 6 symptoms of heartburn so you can keep living life non-stop. Eno, fight heartburn and indigestion fast.
Yep, we listened, we heard you, and because of that, we're back. What's Good Africa, Kenya edition.
It's when you're down toto, tukianza strap, walikuwa soro. When fans wetu, walikuwa dogo.
The idea of me becoming a DJ, of course, is from the love of music. Like, I live, breathe, eat
music.
Personally, I being raised especially like here in Africa, there are also other cultures outside there we have to appreciate.
I'm not going to allow Roberta to marry him when she hasn't been honest. When she hid from him things as important as her involvement with Rafael. And also, she has done everything possible to ruin me.
Could it be that he cheated on you because you could never give him a son? Maybe I can do that and we can raise him together.
Please, I'm begging you to take me to the hospital.
Oh, sure, I'm going to take you to a hospital. Of course I will, but tomorrow. Now, if you don't want your future husband to call off the wedding at once, you and I have to fix this small problem. Is that clear?
Timeless love.
Beat sensitivity pain fast with Sensodyne Rapid Action for clinically proven relief in 60 seconds.
To get Ohala by Awiko and Mr. Seed, dial star 812 star 802 hash. Skiza Na Nation.
Try Panadol Advance for relief from headaches, body aches, and fever. With Panadol's Optizorb formula, the tablet gently breaks down in the stomach, quickly absorbs, and starts providing pain relief in 15 minutes. For fast and effective pain relief that you can trust, try Panadol Advance.
Thank you for staying with us on Your World on NTV Kenya this morning. We continue our discussion on the state of the insurance industry in the country. We also have some feedback that you've been sending us. We'll be sampling them in a few. But before then, let's give you an update on other stories around the world. And royal experts Robert Jobson and Victoria Murphy say that Harry and Meghan's recently announced new baby will be different to the previous royal children in several ways, including potentially becoming the first member of the royal family to be born in the United States. Interesting, right?
Babies that have been born in the UK, and we see family members visit after the birth, or we see family together from time to time. I think, this royal baby might not see some of his or her royal relatives for several months just because of the circumstances and the distance between the US and the UK.
It's interesting, I think, that it's announced now. Obviously, they'll probably wait until the outcome of this court case that was going on with regard to their privacy before issuing this announcement. But it comes, I think, on a romantic day, on a happy day when everybody can enjoy such news. There's been a lot of negativity around this couple, and I just hope that it helps build bridges going forward so that the Prince of Wales can enjoy time with his new grandson and granddaughter when the opportunity arises.
I'm just curious to know what it takes to be a royal family expert. Anyway, let's move to Southern America now. And Argentines gathered on Monday to bid farewell and pay their final respects to the late former Argentine President Carlos Menem at the National Congress. President Menem, who ruled his country with a neoliberal approach to the economy, died in Buenos Aires clinic on Sunday at the age of 90. Menem had been in poor health and was hospitalized several times in recent months for pneumonia. From the south to the north of America, and they were omnipresent in the streets of New York day and night as the emblematic of the Big Apple, as the Empire State of Building or Yankees Caps. But the pandemic has made the yellow taxis scarce and facing an uncertain future.
Pandemic has just been devastating. You know, I mean, before the pandemic, ridership had been down by about 50%, but since the pandemic, it's down closer to 90%. If the debt is not addressed, then the yellow cab industry will slowly phase out. In order for this industry to stay alive and to actually revive itself post-pandemic, this debt has to be addressed.
I lost my brother. I'm heartbreaking. So I sent right there. So we are taxi driver and the owner driver. We are hopeless. Nobody help us.
In the sense of giving up, I thought about it, but then again, if I give up, where else can I go? What else can I do? You know, those are the questions that I ask myself.
Justice! What do you want? Justice! What do you want?
And finally, a group of protesters clashed with the police as hundreds took to the streets of Port-au-Prince to denounce Haiti President Jovenel Moise. The protesters say Moise's term ended last weekend, but the president insists that he has another year in office. A judge proposed by the opposition to serve as the acting president in Haiti's latest political crisis ended days of silence Saturday by calling on people to fight against what he called a dictatorship. Good. Of course, we continue our discussion on the state of the insurance sector. We have been inviting you to join us in the discussion, send your feedback, and I think we have some. The question has always been, have you insured yourself, your business or property against any risk? And if not, you tell us why. We have Erastus Mutava Kasina, who says claiming for compensation is always a puzzle. Insurance cover should be made optional. I think that is interesting because it's the same thing that Washington has been saying. Kongo Okongo says, one insurance company pissed me off when I went to claim a refund. It took over 20 days. And we have McManaman Steve. He says, the problem with insurance is those selling the policy. Their main interest is the money they get after registration of a new member. And then we have Peter Njogoro says, no, insurance is stealing in broad daylight. In fact, it's more than a robbery with violence. I'm talking from experience. Very, very, very interesting comments. And then we have Jeff Taylor. In our final comment, he says, unfortunately, there hasn't been enough drive to make people aware of it. Good. I think my panelists would agree that the feedback we have is in tandem with what we have been talking about, the issues we have addressed. Just not to take this discussion back, we are talking about moving forward and ensuring that we have sustainable growth in this sector. Kalai, if you look at the graphics we had at the beginning of the show, most classes are actually loss-making. Motor, be it commercial, or be it private. If you look at, can't remember, I think non-life in general, a cumulative loss of about 3.27 billion shillings. And we're trying to move forward, but the sector itself is making really, really, really huge losses, if I can say so. Does this raise the question of sustainability and where we're headed?
Yeah, it does. Definitely it does. There's a question we always ask. Why are you in a business when you are not making money out of it? So your concern is valid. It raises concerns about sustainability. But it's an issue of what are the drivers of that kind of performance. I think that is what is key. And most of us may not like it, but there are different arguments about rates, whether really the rates are adequate. For us to pay all these claims, we need to collect adequate premium to be able to cover that. For those in the motor industry, we know where the rates are. Actually, last year we had to intervene. They had gone up to almost 1.5% for private. Not sustainable at all. So we had to step in and advise the companies to properly rate, which I think probably this year we may see some slight change.
So we're talking about the issue of undercutting now.
And it's undercutting. It's undercutting.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. But definitely, again, for any business, the bottom line is always about managing your costs. So, and Washington spoke about maybe how technology can help us move forward, how we can distribute these things digitally. Do you think that will help companies cut down on the costs?
Definitely, definitely. To me, technology is the way forward. That's why I was talking about the youth. You know, the future is the youth.
Yeah.
So if you don't start with them now, that's actually where we are going. You'll be left out like we have seen in that clip there. Yeah, so technology is very key in everything as we go forward.
Let me bring in Christine here because she's had more interaction with young people. Christine, we keep saying that the young people are always glued to their phones, they're technologically savvy. Do you agree with Kalai that maybe we should approach them in the means that they understand most, maybe digitally? Would this help in giving us the growth that we desire?
Yes, I agree 100%. I also agree, again, with what Washington said about removing the rogue agents that these youths also interact with a lot. So I believe if you have on the social media handles in terms of Instagram, Facebook, the different social media platforms, and you have insurance agents putting a simple clip there and simple information that can be digested by the youth about their products, the penetration will be very high because, like you said, the youth are addicted to their phones. So if you have someone who's always on YouTube and an advert pops up and it's a very simple way of explaining an insurance product, I believe it will grow by leaps and bounds. So I think there's so much opportunity to get the youth on board, and especially the youth who are in business and in micro and SME business, because those are the ones who are going to grow and become those large corporations later on that will really benefit these insurance companies. So they shouldn't overlook them. They should actually spend a lot of time rebranding to them and also just marketing to these youths to show them what products are available that will suit their needs.
Thank you, Christine. Washington, every time we talk about these things, perhaps sometimes we just think if it's insurance, it's probably about motor insurance or probably about medical insurance or perhaps life insurance. But sometimes people don't even know that you can insure something as small as your phone or household products. How much of awareness do we need in terms of even the things that Kalai was talking about of micro insurance?
Number one, to bring the awareness, there's something I mentioned sometime earlier, that the many thousands of insurance agents in this country are actually the ones who have made, most people have actually no insurance through insurance agents. The many thousands that are there because insurance agents are motivated by the commissions, they're motivated by money to get as many clients as they can. So we need properly trained insurance agents to go out there and give the information. For example, they should give the information about all the products that are in the market. The products about insuring your phones, the product. I mean, by the way, insurance can be crafted to insure anything that you have, anything. For example, like the Lloyd's of London. Lloyd's of London, you just walk in and say, for example, I want to insure my legs if you're a footballer. And they'll come up with a premium for that. Lloyd's of London, these models, you have a beautiful face, for example, is all that's making you money. Just walk into Lloyd's and they say, this beautiful face is worth what? $100 million? And they're going to craft a premium around that, you know? Now, talking about going forward, because at the end of the day, it's all about the penetration of insurance. Every year we hold what we call insurance awards in the insurance sector. I think you know that. In the insurance sector, we have a category of technology. We have a category of which company has made the most impact in terms of technology in the insurance sector that's supposed to make penetration easier in this country. And there's if you go to our website, bimaintermediaries.co.ke, you're going to see the companies that win that particular category. We have a company that has integrated all the insurance companies together in one app. So you don't have as a client to get an app for for example, Heritage that I saw here, or any other company, so to speak, you get one company that integrates all these companies together. So you just download one app. And then that one app has listed insurance companies that you can, if you want a product for XYZ insurance company, you're just going to click onto that company. And then if you want Moto, it brings you Moto and the rates and all that stuff. Technology at the end of the day. But this technology, for it to be applied, you've got to get smart people out there doing insurance. And you see, let me put it, there's something that we started actually in the insurance sector right now. We started what we call mentoring young university graduates to get them ready for the insurance sector. We had just had a session about last week where we are partnering with a certain company that its work is mentoring insurance students, students doing insurance option in the university, because we've discovered that the biggest problem in the insurance sector is the entry level of insurance agents in Kenya. The people who enter into the insurance industry as agents, those are the people, for example, during my time, I'm talking about 20 years ago, you get out there, Victor, you don't have anything else to do. Then you said, then someone tells you to try insurance. I mean, look at that, man. Look at that kind of, I mean, you know, we used to have, like, when you get into insurance, that's a God person, that's a desperate person, there's nothing else you can do. That's a very, very wrong concept, you know?
Washington, I would also stepping into right into it there and argue that this takes us to the first point about then how this entire thing of premiums and onboarding clients is just commission driven and money driven. So we don't even look at, are you actually trained? Do you actually have passion in insurance? Or can you quickly onboard your friends, your family, or anyone on the street to our client and increase the number of let's say, our customer or client base?
I didn't get that. I think I lost it. I'm lost somewhere.
If you can hear me, I'm talking about the point you've just made, and I'm asking if this takes us to the point about how our insurance is actually commission and client driven. So the people who sell our insurance are just interested in increasing the client base of the company they represent and getting a commission from them, as opposed to getting someone who's actually passionate. I think we're still struggling to get to Washington. Let me come back to Christine. Christine, it's not just about insurance, it's also some sort of an investment, right?
Yes, but I can also answer the question you've posed to Washington in terms of, yes, a lot of agents are driven by commissions because, like I mentioned earlier, up to 16 and up to 20% of your premium could be going towards a commission. And how these products are structured is that the first 2 or 3 years of your policy just goes straight to the agent in terms of commission. And that's why I mentioned it's good to find out from your the person selling the policy how much of my premium goes to charges, fees, and commissions. So I would first respond to what you were asking, Washington. And then in terms of investment, I would say the best products in the insurance agencies are the personal pension plans, or even the group pension plans. They offer excellent results because most of them invest in Forex, invest in treasury bills and bonds. They also invest in just a little bit in stocks, but mostly in the conservative investments. And those pensions do very, very well across the board. So those are some of the great ones. There's also some of the long-term plans with money market funds, unit trusts. Those also are excellent investments in the insurance company. So I believe when you approach investing or even getting insurance, find out from the person selling to you what other products are available, what other opportunities are there in terms of investment. And I would say pensions would be excellent, and also money markets as well.
Maybe as we close the discussion, Christian, talk to us about the returns perhaps in some of those investment classes that you've mentioned, and ways in which, let's say, I could learn more about this mode of investment.
Okay, I would say 12 to 15% could be a return even on your pension plan in most of these insurance companies. So it's not bad. It's beating inflation, and it's pretty safe because it's a conservative investment. So I would say just look at between 10 to 15% in terms of a return in those areas.
So through that solution, you say you have an insurance policy, but it is also some sort of investment that could give you something in return, perhaps periodically, annually, or monthly or something?
Actually, I prefer and I advise all my clients to separate the two. Have insurance completely separate from your investment. So for example, you have your health insurance, be completely separate from investment. Life insurance, have it as a term life, separate from investing for your children's education. And when you do that, you get value on both sides because the charges are not as high, and also your investment opportunities are a little bit better than if you do it through the one when it's combined as an endowment plan.
All right. Before I let you go, Christine, your final comments on how we can take this conversation forward and grow insurance in Kenya.
Okay, I would just say there's so much opportunity. There just needs to be the right education and literacy around what products are available. The best ones starting from micro insurance all the way to group life and the different sorts of insurance for businesses. And once the penetration is there through social media and the like, and just using the internet to get this information out there, I believe the opportunity for growth is really, really high. For clients, I just advise them, ask questions. Don't be afraid to ask questions before you sign on the dotted line. Find out the charges. When it comes to health, find out the dependents, the list of doctors, the benefits. When it comes to domestic, find out in terms of if my location of my home is going to affect the claims. If you tell me I'm living next to a factory and I'm not supposed to claim because the factory had an incident. So just ask all the right questions before you sign on the dotted line.
Ask the right questions. Thank you, Christine. Washington, how do we take this forward?
There's a lot that you're doing to make sure that the insurance agency, that insurance grows in this country. And like I was saying something before I lost you, that as an organization, we have come to make sure that penetration is actually achieved, and we have come to make sure that the biggest problem in the insurance sector, which is rogue insurance agents, is actually addressed. Because that's one thing I can tell you, Victor. Once the issue of rogue agents is addressed, we are going to have insurance being enticing. We are going to have insurance being attractive to everyone. Then, of course, we've got to look at the issue. It's not just about rogue insurance agents. What about rogue insurance companies in this country? What about these companies just collecting premiums right now and they can't pay up? That's something that needs to be addressed, because at the end of the day, the issue of instilling confidence in the sector should be in all arms, in all the stakeholders. That's the regulator, the insurance companies, the insurance intermediaries, which are the brokers, the insurance agents. All of them should be able to have an issue of instilling confidence into the sector, such that when you sign on the dotted line that you've gotten an insurance cover, you actually the name we've written down there is what the paper is written on. Let it not be just a kind of like a formality. Let it not be a formality.
All right.
That you're supposed to take insurance, Let it not be anything like that.
Thank you very much, Washington. Interesting. And finally to you, Mr. Musee, from the regulator's seat, how do we take this insurance sector forward?
Okay. Embrace technology, like you said. And once we embrace technology, let us give our policyholders appropriate products for them. Whether it's microinsurance or whatever other product, appropriate products. I will not spend a lot of time on the issue of penetration. I will talk of coverage. Let's make sure we are covered as many people as possible so that we don't have our population exposed to risk.
All right. Thank you very much. Wonderful. So address rogue agents.
Yes.
Wonderful. Yeah. I think there could never be enough time to address this discussion or take this discussion forward, but maybe before we close, I think we have some feedback. Right, we have Mohammed Juma, who says rogue and unscrupulous agents who take advantage of the clients has made many to avoid anything to do with insurance. Gakunga Njuguna says insurance is customized. One person's needs are totally different from the others. You need to sit down / video call of financial advisor / agent so that the solution is tailor-made. I think that is very, very, very good feedback. And then we have Votre Analyst. He says youth should take time to read carefully the insurance policy you are buying. treat it like any other investment and ensure that in case of any claim, the policy will meet your needs and services of the insurance company and will meet your expectations. And then we have Tiberius Thuo says 14 million of us are on CRB. We work hand to mouth. You want me to pay insurance? Wow. Gakunja Njugun, I think, is back. He says, do not look for insurance when you need it. Seek it as a risk management strategy. You can't buy a maternity cover when you're 5 months pregnant because there is a waiting period plan. Wonderful. Very, 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 very interesting feedback that we are receiving from that side. And I think it's very important to see that, part of our listeners or the people, our viewers are actually very, very, very informed and helping educate others. But as I mentioned, I think there could never be enough time to address this. We can only thank you enough for joining us for the last 2 hours. Mr. Kalai Musee, the Chief Manager, the Technical Division of the IRA, Washington Degea of Bima Intermediaries, and Christine Gathioni, who is a financial consultant. Thank you, ladies, gentlemen, and lady. Thank you for joining us today. And now tomorrow we take a look at the impact of TV, internet, and social media consumption on the younger generation. Some of them seem to be exhibiting violent behavior like never before. So does this have anything to do with the long homestay due to COVID-19 pandemic? Ezekiel Mutua and other panelists will be joining Gladys Keshanja to make sense of this tomorrow at 7 a.m. See you then. Happy to host Victor Kiprop.